You ever walk into your own life and feel like a guest? It was a Wednesday, midweek, harmless, ordinary. I had just finished sealing a deal with a client who thought synergy was a personality trait. My tie was still tight around my neck, my inbox blessedly empty for once, and the idea of going home to my wife, Lisa, sounded decent. Not exciting, not dreadful, just decent. That's what 11 years of marriage will do. Shave off the highs and lows until all that's left is a plateau wide enough to build a suburb on. I walked through the front door expecting dinner, or at least the scent of it. Instead, there was a letter. On the kitchen counter. No envelope. No preamble. Just my name. Bold and centered, like a chapter heading in a book I didn't write. It said, "Hey babe, meet me at the cabin this weekend. Just us. No phones. No distractions. I want to reconnect. Love, Lisa." Now, if you knew Lisa, you'd know she doesn't reconnect. Lisa doesn't even connect unless it's through Bluetooth or a curated Instagram post. Still, something about the note made me pause. The cabin was our little place in the woods, an anniversary gift we bought during year 3, back when spontaneous weekend getaways were our thing, and she still laughed at my jokes like I wasn't just quoting Seinfeld. So yeah, I went. Friday afternoon, I packed light, left my laptop, and hit the road, already scripting some heartfelt conversation in my head. Maybe this was a turning point. Maybe she wanted to fix what we both knew was quietly unraveling. I even stopped for wine. Red. The good kind. What I didn't expect, as I pulled up the long gravel driveway, was to see a second car already there. Sleek. Low to the ground. European. I parked behind it and sat in my car for a moment, staring through the windshield at the house. It was lit up. Curtains drawn, fireplace going, cozy as ever. If Norman Rockwell painted Betrayal, this would have been the sketch. I walked up slowly, quietly. The front door was unlocked. My hand hovered over the handle for a beat too long. Inside, there was laughter. Her laughter. And then, "Baby, come on, don't be shy," I heard her say. And then, I swear, if he ever finds out, I'll just say it was all in his head. He's good at imagining things. I opened the door. She gasped. Not in horror. In annoyance. Like I was the one interrupting her moment. "Oh, you're early," she said flatly, standing in the doorway between the kitchen and living room, barefoot, wine glass in hand, wearing the shirt I bought her for our anniversary last year. Behind her, a man popped into view. Hair gelled like a boy band reject. Barefoot too. I looked around, calm, scanning everything. The wine bottle. The dishes. 2 wine glasses. 1 couch cushion on the floor. My cabin. My life. Lisa blinked. "Aren't you going to say something?" I smiled. Not because I was okay, but because I expected this. I just didn't expect how predictable it would feel. "You invited me," I said. "So here I am." She hesitated. "I meant next weekend." I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. "No," I said. "You meant this weekend. I just didn't tell you that I knew." Her smirk faltered. He spoke for the first time. "Yo, I think maybe I should go." I turned to him, measured, calm. "Nah, stay," I said. "We haven't even played our little game yet." Lisa crossed her arms. "What game?" I dropped the bag I brought. Inside, a folder, neatly labeled. She frowned. "What is that?" I smiled wider. "Oh, just the beginning." She didn't move. Not a twitch. Just stared at the folder like it had teeth. I bent down, unzipped the bag, and pulled it out slowly, paper rustling louder than it should have in the quiet room. The other guy, Brad or Chad, or whatever name you give to a haircut that costs more than my tires, shifted uncomfortably near the fireplace. Lisa finally broke the silence. "What's in the folder, Tom?" I held it up like a magician about to perform a card trick. "This," I said. "This is the part where you start regretting underestimating me." Her arms dropped to her sides. Brad Chad puffed up his chest, like that would help. "Look, man, I didn't know she was married. She said you were, like, separated." I looked at him the way a tax auditor looks at a guy who writes off a jet ski as a business expense. "Really? And that sounded legit to you?" The house with the family photos and matching monogram towels didn't make you pause for even a second. He glanced at Lisa. She glared back. Some team they were. "Anyway," I continued, placing the folder on the coffee table like a chessboard. "This isn't just evidence. This is your highlight reel." Lisa didn't speak. Smart. Her brain was probably scrambling to do math it should have done 6 months ago. "Emails," I said, opening the folder. screenshots, phone logs, credit card statements, and my personal favorite, hotel receipt signed with a name I don't recognize, but my bank definitely did. Lisa opened her mouth. I held up a finger. Not done. I flipped the next page. Remember the weekend you said you were visiting your sister in Denver? Funny thing, your sister sent me pictures from Cancun of her, with her actual husband, in front of a buffet, while you were apparently having brunch with Brad Chad at a 3-star motel in Springfield. He winced. It's actually. I cut him off. Nope. You don't get to correct me. You get to listen. Lisa reached for her wine. I raised an eyebrow. You're going to want to stay sober for the rest of this. She hesitated, then set the glass down slowly. Good. This isn't a fight, I told her. This is a presentation. You gave me data. I analyzed it. Cross-referenced patterns. Built a timeline. I tapped the table. This is your affair. Broken down like a financial report. Do you want me to go over the charts? There's color coding. Lisa finally spoke. Why didn't you say anything? Because I wanted to be sure, I said. Because I wanted this. I gestured at the room. The moment when you realize I was never as blind as you thought. Just patient. Chad cleared his throat. All right, man, you've made your point. Can I just leave? You can. But I'd recommend staying 5 more minutes. He blinked. Lisa looked between us. What did you do? I smiled and sat down on the couch. Oh, nothing crazy. Just called your boss. Her eyes widened. You what? Oh yeah, I said casually. Turns out, having a company phone and using it to coordinate, extracurriculars is a violation of corporate policy. Your texts? Your photos? Yeah, they're all backed up on the company cloud. Your IT guy was very helpful. She stood now. Angry. Afraid. That's illegal. No. Using company resources to cheat on your husband while pretending to work weekends is illegal. What I did, just read what was already there. And then came the knock. 3 gentle raps at the door. Brad Chad stepped back. Lisa froze. I just smiled again. Ah, I said. That'll be the next player. She didn't move. Not at first. Her eyes darted toward the door, then back to me like I was the conductor of some symphony she didn't remember signing up for. Brad Chad took a step toward the hallway like he might try to bolt, but I stopped him with one look. Not threatening, just firm, like a dad who's done with repeating himself. Another knock. Still gentle, still polite. I gestured with my chin. Go on, I said to Lisa. It's your house too. Might as well do the honors. She stared at me, calculating, wondering just how many pieces of her world were about to fall off the board. She opened the door slowly, and in stepped Kevin. Kevin wore khakis, a blue Oxford shirt, and an expression like he thought he was walking into a Tupperware party. He blinked, clearly surprised to see 3 of us inside instead of just Lisa. Oh, he said. Tom. What's... Kev? Hey, I said with an easy grin. Right on time. Come on in. Lisa's face was draining faster than a cheap wine cooler. Tom, she said. What is this? I stood and stretched, like a man finally getting comfortable. This, I said, is my exit interview. Kevin's here as a witness. Kevin scratched the back of his neck. You said you needed me for something about the cabin deed? Yep. You'll want to sit for this part. Lisa looked at me like I'd lost it. You brought Kevin into this. Oh, I brought a few people into this, I said cheerfully. But Kevin's special. You'll see. Brad Chad, in the corner, clearly had no idea what dimension he'd wandered into. I walked to the mantel, pulled out a second folder, this one in red. Kevin, I said, do you recognize this? He took the folder, opened it, and began reading. His brow furrowed. What is this? These are emails between Lisa and my wife. I nodded. Keep going. He flipped the page. Read more. Then more. His face slowly shifted, confusion into disbelief. Then disgust. Lisa finally realized what he was reading. She lunged forward. Tom, that's private. How did you? Oh, please, I said, waving her off. You logged into your email on my laptop and never logged out. For months. Kevin looked up, pale. She's been sleeping with my wife? Affirmative, I said. Weekend spa trips? Not spa trips. Lisa looked like she was choking on air. That was over a year ago. 17 months, I corrected. And 2 weeks. And 3 days. But hey, who's counting? Kevin sat back hard on the couch. She said you were working things out. She said it was just. Lisa spun on him. Kevin, I didn't know Tom was going to drag you into this. You didn't know? He shot back. You dragged me into it the minute you smiled in my face and slept with my wife behind my back. The silence was heavy now. Not the silence of shock. The silence of fallout. I told you, I said gently. This wasn't a tantrum. This is chess. Lisa's eyes were wild now. You think this makes you smart? You think this makes you the winner? What kind of psycho plans all this? I'm not a psycho, I said. I'm married to one. Kevin stood abruptly. I need to go. I nodded. Thanks for coming, Kev. You'll find copies of everything you need in the envelope I left on your passenger seat. Oh, and don't worry, I blacked out the photos. I have class. He left without another word. Brad Chad looked like he wanted to evaporate. Lisa just stared at me. Numb now? I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, took a slow sip. Then I turned back and said, You know what the funny part is? Lisa blinked, dazed. You always assumed I'd be the one begging you to stay. I set the glass down. I'm not. The moment Kevin left, the house shifted. Not physically. No earthquake, no creaking walls, but something deeper. Like the very structure of the moment recalibrated. Lisa stood frozen in the doorway, one hand still resting on the edge of the doorframe, like she might bolt too. I could almost hear the gears grinding in her head. Brad Chad had slunk into the furthest possible corner of the living room and was texting someone furiously, likely Uber, hopefully God. And me? I was calm. I always had been. See, the thing about being betrayed isn't the heartbreak. It's the humiliation. And once you accept that, once the sting dulls into a steady hum, you start thinking clearly again. I don't get it, Lisa finally said, arms crossed, voice tight with disbelief. What was the point of all this? Some kind of public shaming. I tilted my head. Public? Nah. This is private. Beautifully, poetically private. Just as chickens. You cheated in the shadows, so I figured I'd deliver the consequences under the same light. She scoffed. What do you want? An apology? Closure? I leaned forward. Lisa, if I wanted an apology, I'd still believe you're capable of one. I walked past her and picked up the first folder from the coffee table. This is what you built, I said, tapping the cover. Lies. Deception. Betrayal with a side of Chardonnay. You handed me puzzle pieces for over a year, and I just started putting them together. She folded her arms again, jaw tight. So what now? You throw me out. I smiled, slow and deliberate. No. Brad Chad looked up. Wait, what? Lisa narrowed her eyes. You're keeping me here? I shook my head. Nope. You're free to leave. Always have been. This isn't a prison. It's a spotlight. She frowned. Then what is this, Tom? I picked up my phone from the coffee table and scrolled through my camera roll. I turned the screen toward her. On it, a paused video. Her. Brad Chad. Our bedroom. 2 wine glasses. Her voice, laughing. His, saying something about next time without cameras. Lisa's blood drained. You recorded us? I raised my eyebrows. I didn't. You did. She blinked. Remember the Nest cam you insisted we put in for security reasons? You activated it that night by accident. Or maybe it was muscle memory. Either way, the cloud doesn't lie. I found it the next day when I got the motion-detected ping on my phone. She opened her mouth to speak, but there was nothing to say. I watched it exactly once, I continued. Not because I wanted to see it, but because I needed to be sure. Chad stood now shaky. Okay, look, this is getting weird. I didn't sign up for it. I cut him off without even looking at him. You signed up the second you walked into this cabin. You just didn't read the fine print. Lisa crossed the room, snatched her coat off the hook. You're disgusting. Not as disgusting as kissing your husband in the morning and someone else by lunch, I said, voice low, level. She spun. So you've been planning this? What? For revenge? No, I said. For clarity. That stopped her. I needed you to see what you really look like, I said. To feel what I've felt. The confusion. The embarrassment. The moment when trust evaporates and all that's left is an echo of who you used to be. She hesitated at the door. I picked up one more folder. A thin one. Just a single page. Before you go, I said, this is yours. She turned slowly. I handed her the paper. Her eyes scanned it. Her lips parted slightly. A resignation letter. Addressed to her company. Effective immediately. Her signature at the bottom. She looked up, stunned. What is this? You signed it, I said. Digitally. 3 nights ago, while you were watching that documentary you didn't finish. Remember when I asked if you could enter your password for our mortgage account on my laptop? Her voice cracked. You forged. No. You signed it. You just didn't read the window that popped up before the confirmation screen. You tricked me. No, I said. I tested you. And you failed. Spectacularly. She gritted her teeth. Why would you do this? Because I know you, I said softly. You'd never leave on your own. You'd cling to the wreckage, blame me for the water coming in, and call yourself a survivor. Lisa stared at me for a long time. Then something shifted in her face. Less anger, more realization. That tight, practiced mask she wore cracked just slightly at the corner. And then, slowly, it hardened again. She turned to Chad. Come on, let's go. But Chad didn't move. Actually, he said, awkwardly adjusting his jacket. I think I'm gonna pass. I've got a flight tomorrow. And, this has been a lot. Lisa gaped. You said. I said a lot of things, he mumbled. I's not meeting hers. She let out a dry laugh, bitter and sharp. So what now? I leave and you just… What? Go back to your perfect little life. No, I said, stepping past her. You don't get it, Lisa. You've already left. This life, the one you cheated your way out of, it ended the moment you called me predictable in a text to someone who isn't your husband. I opened the door. She stood on the threshold. I added, quietly, you should go now, while there's still a shred of dignity to take with you. And she did. No screaming. No slamming. Just silence. She walked out. And that, right there, that was the real victory. Because I didn't ruin her. I simply let her ruin herself. The cabin was quiet again. Real quiet. Not just the absence of noise, but that heavy, echoing kind of stillness you get after a storm. The door clicked shut behind her, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something resembling peace. Not happiness. Not yet. Just the kind of peace that comes when the wreckage has finally stopped moving. I stood alone in the living room, surrounded by folders of truth, half-finished glasses of lies, and the unmistakable air of someone who knew. Not suspected. Not guessed. Knew. Brad Chad's car peeled out down the gravel driveway 5 minutes later. No goodbyes. No eye contact. Just taillights cutting through the trees like a man being chased by the consequences of his taste in married women. I didn't stop him. Why would I? Let him carry a piece of this story with him, like a paper cut that stings every time he thinks about how slick he thought he was. I sat down on the couch, my couch, and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding for months. There was no victory lap, no dramatic monologue, just a man in a flannel shirt, alone with the echo of everything he'd endured. But here's the thing about pain. It's honest. It has no poker face. I pulled my phone from my pocket and tapped open the folder labeled insurance. Inside were all the documents I hadn't shown Lisa. The ones I didn't need to show her. Not yet. The will. The updated deed to the cabin. The joint accounts I'd quietly emptied into new ones over the last 6 months. She thought she'd walk away with half. She didn't know she already had. A part of me wanted to stop there. Wrap it all up. Move on. Breathe. But the worst part of betrayal isn't what they take from you. It's what they leave behind. So I stood, walked to the bedroom, and opened the closet. Her side was still full. Dresses. Scarves. That green coat she claimed she never wore, but packed every time we went anywhere remotely photogenic. I pulled out a single box I'd hidden months ago behind the winter boots. The memory box. You know the one. The look how happy we were box. Polaroids. Ticket stubs. Letters she wrote me when she still used my name like it meant something. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened it. Top layer. A photo from our trip to Maine. She was laughing, sunglasses too big for her face, holding a lobster claw like a trophy. My arm was around her. We looked like people who'd make it. We didn't. Underneath that, a note from our 5th anniversary. Her handwriting had that hurried charm back then. You're my calm. My home. I hope I never forget how safe I feel next to you. Funny thing about love letters, they age like milk when read after the fall. I held it in my hands for a long while, then set it aside. Underneath that, folded neatly, was a small, square envelope. One I didn't recognize. I opened it slowly. Inside, a receipt. From a jewelry store. Dated 6 months ago. It wasn't mine. I don't wear jewelry. And Lisa hated diamonds. Except, the receipt wasn't addressed to her. No, it was from her. To someone named T. There was a handwritten note on the back. For everything you've given me when he couldn't. I can't wait until we don't have to sneak around anymore. Signed with a heart. I stared at it. T. Who was T? Not Chad. That much was clear. I sat very still. The puzzle had a new piece, one I hadn't accounted for. A second affair? Or a fallback option? Maybe even the real one. Either way, I wasn't done. I pulled out my laptop, logged in, opened the folder marked Red Flags. This is where I kept everything that didn't quite fit the main storyline. Little things. A second phone number she used sometimes. The hotel reservations under a different last name. That one weekend she insisted she was at a yoga retreat and came back with 0 photos. I pulled up the metadata from the jewelry store receipt. A GPS ping attached to the purchase. It wasn't far. Downtown. About 15 minutes from the cabin. I stared at the screen. I could have ignored it. Let her fade out like a bad dream. But something in me shifted. Not anger. Not vengeance. Curiosity. Because I realized something then. Lisa didn't betray me just once. She practiced. And I wanted to see how deep the rehearsal went. I put on my coat, locked up the cabin, and drove into town. The sun had just dipped behind the hills when I parked outside the jewelry store. I didn't go inside. Didn't need to. Next door was a coffee shop. I stepped in, ordered a black coffee, and sat near the window. 2 tables over, a couple sat close, heads together, laughing softly. I didn't care who they were. I just watched. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't in it. I wasn't orbiting Lisa's moods. I wasn't second-guessing text messages. I wasn't chasing a ghost who used to love me. I was just a man with a hot drink, a clean conscience, and a trail of breadcrumbs that wasn't finished yet. And I had time. Lots of it. Because when you've been dismantled piece by piece, there's something intoxicating about slowly, methodically, building yourself back brick by brick, while keeping just one eye on the rear view. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. And she had no idea just how far ahead I'd already gotten. There's a funny thing that happens when you stop reacting and start observing. The world gets quiet. Quieter than you expect. Quieter than you'd like at first. But in that quiet, patterns emerge. I sat in that cafe for 47 minutes. Sipped one coffee, refilled it once, and made myself invisible. It's easier than you think when you've been invisible in your own marriage for the better part of 2 years. You learn how to disappear while being in plain sight. I wasn't looking for anyone in particular. Not yet. Just watching, listening, waiting for a spark. Then, at minute 48, it happened. Doors swung open. Wind followed. A tall man entered. Trim. Gray suit. Sharp haircut. Clean shaven. But not the kind of clean that says routine. The kind that says image. He looked like he moisturized. The expensive kind. He was holding a small, navy blue velvet box. My chest didn't tighten. My fists didn't clench. I just smiled. He walked past me, toward the barista like he'd done it before. Double espresso, he said smoothly. In a to-go cup, please. And a second one, with almond milk. No sugar. Not for him. For her. He tapped his phone while waiting. No wedding ring. But something in his posture screamed practiced affection. You know it when you've seen it up close. When you've been on the receiving end of real love, and the tail end of counterfeit. He got his drinks. Slid the velvet box into his coat pocket like it was a paperclip. And then he walked out. I let 5 seconds pass. Then I followed. He wasn't in a rush. Men in control never are. He strolled across the street to a glass-fronted office building with one of those ambiguous modern names that say nothing and cost $900 in branding fees. Evolvian. I stopped at a bus stop bench across the street and watched him badge in. 3rd floor. It didn't take long to find him. A quick LinkedIn search of Evolvian, 3rd floor, executive, narrowed things down fast. Trent Holloway, VP of Strategic Accounts. Bingo. I scrolled through his profile. Golf. Wharton MBA. Board member of something involving sustainability and vaguely French cheese. Married once, divorced twice. No kids. Several smiling photos with golden retrievers, mountain hikes, and other stock male redemption imagery. Then I clicked posts. And there it was. 3 weeks ago. A photo of him and Lisa. At a fundraising gala. She was in a navy blue dress. The one I bought her 3 birthdays ago. Still had the receipt. Still remembered how she'd said, "It's not my color," and shoved it into the closet. Looks like she changed her mind. His caption, big hearts, big causes, big future ahead. And in the comments, Lisa had replied, "To new beginnings, clinking glasses." Cute. So that's who T was. I didn't do anything right away. I drove back to the cabin. It was fully dark by the time I got there. No missed calls. No texts. Not that I expected any. Lisa was many things, but predictable in crisis? Not one of them. She probably assumed I'd burned her stuff by now, or filed for divorce, or crawled under a rock to write poetry about betrayal. What I did instead, I opened my laptop and started compiling. Not out of vengeance. I was past that. Out of interest. Trent Holloway's name was on 3 separate advisory boards. One of them, the same corporate committee Lisa had joined earlier this year. The one she said was volunteer-based and super boring. I kept digging. Turns out Lisa wasn't just cheating. She was networking. I scrolled through their digital footprints, watching her calendar sync with his travel schedule, watching hotel reservations align like puzzle pieces. Miami in June, Denver in August, Seattle last month. She didn't just leave me. She was replacing me. She traded love for leverage, home for hierarchy, and apparently, me, for Trent Holloway, VP of Strategic Accounts and corporate cheese lover. Now, here's where most people go off the rails. Anger, revenge, some misguided romantic flourish meant to reclaim dignity. Not me. I don't reclaim dignity. I build it from scratch. That night, I drafted one letter. Not to Lisa, not to Trent, to the corporate ethics board of Evolvian's largest client, a Fortune 100 logistics firm that happened to have a strict, no personal fraternization during contract negotiation clause, especially during multi-million-dollar international deals. Trent's name was all over those deals. Lisa's, too. I attached calendar entries, hotel overlaps, photos, emails, just enough to raise questions. Not accusations, just questions. Then, I did something simple. I printed the letter, mailed it. Old school. No digital trail, no IP address. Then I walked outside, looked up at the stars, and realized something. She thought she was playing checkers. She didn't even realize I'd swapped the board out for chess months ago. The next morning, I got a text. From her. Lisa, we need to talk. I think I made a mistake. I stared at it. No smile. No rage. Just a quiet nod. Tom. Me too. I was honest when I said I loved you. Lisa, are you at the cabin? Tom. Not anymore. I turned my phone off. Let her sit in that silence she never used to tolerate. Let her think about why the silence now felt so final. Because I wasn't waiting for an apology. I was building a conclusion. And the final chapter? Oh, that one was still coming. 2 days passed. Then 3. Nothing. Lisa didn't call again. Didn't text. Not even a late-night guilt trip or a passive-aggressive emoji. Which was fine. Expected even. She'd go quiet until she could reappear with some plausible excuse. Something polished, guiltless, and vaguely empowering. Maybe a fake epiphany. Maybe tears. Depends on the outfit. But then, on day 4, the phone rang. Not a call. An alert. Evolvian VP resigns amid ethics probe. The headline was so clean, it could have been etched into glass. I clicked. Trent Holloway, Vice President of Strategic Accounts at Evolvian, has formally resigned following an internal investigation regarding a potential conflict of interest during negotiations with international logistics firm Baird & Braddock. Sources close to the matter suggest Holloway may have violated personal conduct clauses during contract proceedings. Evolvian has declined to comment. I didn't smile. I didn't pump my fist. I just stood there, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, and nodded once, like a man watching a machine he built do exactly what it was designed to do. One sentence buried near the bottom of the article caught my eye. Representatives for Holloway have stated that he was the victim of a targeted smear campaign orchestrated by a former acquaintance. Oh, Trent. Acquaintance. Harsh. I thought we shared a woman. Guess some people just don't know how to lose with grace. Later that afternoon, Lisa showed up at my doorstep. Not the cabin. My real home. The one she moved out of in stages. First her clothes, then her energy, and finally her heart. She stood there holding a Tupperware of what appeared to be lasagna, which I assume she thought symbolized something. She looked uncertain. That was new. Hey, she said softly. I waited. She held the container a little higher. I thought you might not be eating well. Lisa, I said, you left me for a man who drinks espresso with almond milk. I promise I'm fine. She flinched, just a little. I came to apologize. Which part? I asked. The affair? The lying? The public ambush? The job hopping? Or the part where you tried to rewrite history to make yourself the victim? I didn't mean to hurt you, she whispered. But you did, I replied. Repeatedly. With precision. She shifted her weight. Trent's gone. They're investigating him. He says it's your fault. I shrugged. Shouldn't have left a trail then. You sabotaged everything. No, I said calmly. You did. I just let the truth breathe. She blinked hard. I don't even know who you are anymore. That's funny, I said, stepping forward. Because I finally do. I invited her inside. Not out of kindness. Curiosity, maybe. You don't train for a marathon just to stop running when the finish line's in sight. She walked in slowly, like the furniture might still remember her. I gestured to the kitchen table. One last folder sat there. She glanced at it. What's this? Your final offer, I said. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a divorce settlement. Straightforward. Civil, no tricks. And a single sheet of paper. She read it. Then read it again. Her voice wavered. You're giving me the cabin? Yep. And you're keeping the house? Yep. And you're waiving spousal support? Correct. She frowned. Why? I leaned forward. Because I want you to feel what it's like to own something that used to be sacred and live inside it knowing you ruined it. She said nothing. I added, the cabin's yours. But you won't find peace there. Only echoes. She swallowed hard. Why are you doing this? Because cruelty, I said, doesn't always come with shouting. Sometimes it's just watching someone unpack in a house that used to hold love and realizing they brought nothing worth keeping. She signed the papers. Silent. Pale. Somewhere in that head of hers, 1,000 little rewrites were forming, all failing to stick. She wasn't in control anymore. She wasn't the lead in the drama. She was the ending. I walked her to the door. Tom, she said quietly, almost kindly, will you ever forgive me? I met her eyes. Lisa, I already did. She blinked. But that's not the part that should worry you, I said. The part that should keep you up at night is knowing. I'm never going to forget. She left. No hug. No look back. Just the soft sound of her heels on the pavement and a car that drove away slower than she meant it to. I stood in the doorway a while. Not out of sadness. Just to breathe. Inside, the air smelled like freedom. And maybe coffee. And somewhere deep in the drawer, a new folder waited. This one wasn't labeled with her name. Just one word.